So, hello. Everyone say a nice big hello.
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 Hello. You can be heard. I can be heard. Zizi, on your end of things, can we all be heard?
Yeah.
Everything's
Looks like
good.
We're all good.
Oh, and look at this. At last, right, just as we've gone live in a car.
Yeah.
I just love it.
I'm glad to got seatbelt on though.
Yep.
I'm driving home, so I will be driving, but I'm totes cool.
The virtual background looks amazing, so that's
Thank
Yeah.
you. This is where I'm driving home from.
I love it, and I also love that you've got like a
just on what I'm in.
Are you on the back of a horse with a seatbelt on?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, hello everyone out there in internet land, and welcome to another, and by another I mean the second edition of Improv and Me, a discussion of improv and mental health. We had one of these in August, I believe, as part of the Extreme Improv XStreamed World Championship Festival month, and it was a fantastic idea that Ashley came to me with, and it was a great show. We were getting into some things, and just because of the schedule of things, we did have to cut things short, so we promised that we would do another one. And then Zizi are allowed to fill in some of the blanks here, but you have something going on for which you felt this would be an appropriate show to have as part of what you've going on. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been running a online festival over September and October called the Good Mental Health Festival, and actually this was inspired by you, David, and the and championship that you did, because it really I think what you did there, it touched a lot of people over the lockdown period. And this is when I got connected with you. It's how I met Ashley, Hannah, Danny I knew before, but you this was all kind of part of this thing that you were doing, and it brought a lot of joy to people, and it inspired me to think, okay, let's do something similar. But I also use that to kind of raise some funds. I'm involved in a charitable organisation called the Good Mental Health Cooperative. And we had some funding to do some work for converting some workshops into online stuff to support people. And that funding then finished, and we were looking for more funding. And it's actually like a really expensive, it's actually quite costly to keep putting out for funding bids. So I wanted to find some pot of money that we could use to help us just kind of cover some of those costs while we keep looking for more bids and, you know, keep trying to put on more support. So the festival that I've been running has been all in aid of the Good Mental Health Cooperative to try and raise some funds and also reach out and bring some joy to people. You know, and kind of, we've had some like very kind of tough conversations about some difficult topics that needed to be heard, and we've also had some fun streams. Like I did a music night the other day, and we've had a dance event, and on Friday, David's hosting us a improv show.
Woo!
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah, fantastic. And that's Friday at 7 p.m, which will be a shorter Extreme Improv Extreme show than usual, but it will be a nice lead into our usual Revenge of the Werewolf show. So we'll have a mini bonus show this week, which you can never say no to, like a bonus improv opportunity. So obviously there's a load of things we can touch on. I think we decided beforehand that this would just be a bit more of a free flow chat where we'll be able to talk about any things we want. Obviously it was World Mental Health Day on Saturday, I believe. Don't want to suddenly get that detail wrong. And obviously, as you touched on there, ZZ, lockdown, improv, being able to do something, just improv in general does bring, for me, it brings a lot of connection with people and a lot of joy and being able to relax and be able to have fun and take your mind off of other things, and especially this year where there's a lot going on in the world. Does anyone else want to throw in on any of that? Or I think we have someone at the door, the pizza delivery.
Someone's knocking at the door.
Someone's ringing the bell.
Thank you.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Through improv style, people are just dropping in whenever they feel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now we roll.
That's cool.
So,
Obviously, I was just gonna throw in that I obviously work for I work for the NHS.
Oh yeah, introductions. We've completely. Oh yeah, do you know what? Let's do this. Ashley, you can get the ball rolling on proper introductions.
Thank you, David Postansky. So I'm Ashley Edwards, and I am the World Champion Extreme Improv 2020 online. But I'm also a clinical lead speech and language therapist working within dementia and end-of-life care. And I work in the NHS in Essex, and my trust specialises in mental health. So we are focused on a lot of inpatient units and whatnot. So obviously my trust has done massive things for Mental Health Awareness Week, including, obviously, as you can imagine, NHS staff. No one's clapping for us anymore. No one claps. For that, we're getting, thank you, but please carry on driving. We're getting what's called a little bit of compassion fatigue. I think a lot of staff get quite weary, and the Mental Health Awareness Week, they started kicking off these little rest nests where nurses can go onto Zoom and just have a chat and a gossip and a moan. And I think that was quite successful as well. But tonight I would love to talk about things like stress and anxiety and improv. And I'd also like to talk about improving the mental health and well-being of people with dementia with improv.
Okay, fantastic. ZZ, you've said a bunch of things, but anything else you want to add to your introduction?
So some of the people watching on my stream, because I don't know if everyone's fully aware, but we're streaming on 2 different platforms here. David's doing his and I'm doing mine. So people who are watching mine may know me by my proper name, Sarah Haskett, and because obviously with my work, that's the name I use. And then I have my sort of arts name. So people who know me through performance, they'll know me as ZZ. So I'm a psychological therapist and a mental health nurse, and I dabble a bit in improv performance, and a few other sort of some comedy things, and I do a bit of dance as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
So
Okay, so in fact, just we'll continue the introductions, but because you mentioned it there, ZZ, what are your platforms? What are your channels? Just so that anyone watching the Extreme Improv channel can hop over and give a like, subscribe, whatever, just because you'll be able to find all of the good stuff that ZZ's doing. You can find it at...
It's Creative Mental Health. So you can find us at, I think it's Facebook, Creative Mental Health UK. And yeah, just search Creative Mental Health and you'll find it.
Okay, brilliant. Next up, Hannah.
Put a little thing up.
Hiya.
Yeah.
I'm Hannah. I'm driving currently, that's why I'm not looking at the camera. So you've got my attractive Peter Kay side profile to contend with. Baby. I'm an actor improviser. I don't do anything with the NHS, but I would love to. Away from acting and improv, I am an equine rehabilitator, so I rehabilitate horses that have had not the best starts in life. But that's not really important. I fully support the NHS. I fully support mental health and well-being. I'm here today just to, well, hopefully at some point get home, but also just to support the cause, really, and have my input when and where possible.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. I didn't realise you were the driver of this vehicle. This is the second time we've had this happen on a show recently. And speaking of which, Elkie.
It's a trend. It's a trend.
Yeah, it's catching on. Everybody needs to do it.
I'm just a bit.
I'm feeling a little bit anxious, actually.
Well, exactly. Well, so this is a test. We raise our anxiety and then we see how we cope with it.
It's all right. Oh, I've been taught by the best how to drive. Oh shit! I've been taught by the best.
Oh shit!
It's a fucking squirrel.
Oh dear. Elkie. Introductions, please.
I'm Elkie. I've been an improviser for almost 10 years now, and I perform all the time because I am a self-proclaimed improv junkie. And improv does indeed keep me sane. When I don't do it, I remember 2 weeks I had gone without, and it was weird. So yeah, I need improv in my life, and it really helps. And I'm glad to be part of this discussion.
Okay, brilliant. Just for myself, if I didn't say my name is David Postansky. I created Extreme Improv. And I'm excited to be here. I teach drama, I direct drama, and I've done a lot of teaching and working with improvisers over the years. And it's amazing, just before we get into it any further on that stuff, how much I find that people that I've come across find that improv helps with their mental well-being, and that's in so many layers and levels that we'll get into, I'm sure. Danny, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people, my name's Danny. Like Sarah, I'm part of Portsmouth Improv Experience. Unlike Sarah, and probably unlike anyone else in this room, I've only been in improv for just over a year. Like, I'm still very new to it. And also have sort of significant mental health experience, which I'm happy to talk about with you guys for watching.
Okay, yeah. So, where shall we get started with this, guys? Where do we want to begin?
I'd just like to very, very, very briefly just kind of summarise what we just discussed in the last one we talked about. And I think one of the main themes that we pulled from that last show was that with improv, where you're taught to be fully present in a scene, to be fully listening to your counterpart person, is often one of the best distractions you can have for the stresses that are going on in your life at the moment. And it kind of forces you to bench all those things, and really put yourself in that moment. And I think that was one of the main things that we kind of all agreed on together. And I raised the point that at a very, very stressful time in my life where my mental health was very poor, the one thing that kept me grounded and the one thing that I committed to the entire time was going to improv. And it genuinely got me through that troubling time.
Yeah, everyone here, it's a safe space, but obviously this is a live stream as well. So no one feel pressured to be able to have to share anything they don't wish to. But I think, just generally speaking, I think probably I can take a guess that we can all agree that times everyone goes through times where their mental health is perhaps needs a little bit more care than at other times. And would we all agree, if we're here, that improv has helped us with this?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it's the freedom. It's the freedom just to kind of go with whatever comes in your head. You don't have to think too much. And actually, if you think too much, then that can come as a barrier to improv. So one of the things that you want to do is just to kind of go with it, and I find that really freeing, because often, like in my life, in my job and outside of work, because my personal nature is to often just say what's in my head, I often have to be quite restrained, and I'm often worried, I'm often thinking about how people might interpret what I'm saying, and sort of really having to be very careful with my words. So one of the things I love about improv is it lets me be free of that, and I can just roll with whatever comes up. And sometimes it might be really inappropriate, but that's okay. That's what improv's about. You can be inappropriate, and it's actually appropriate.
Right.
Absolutely.
So on that point, I find that improv is a great practice for real life. If you think about it, you can say whatever. I mean, within moral boundaries. But you can say whatever to somebody. It's pretend. It's an imaginary scenario that probably will never happen in real life. Maybe, some I know some people use improv to get over experiences by recreating it, but like differently. And it's freeing, because it's like I said, it's like a practice. Like I'm gonna let me try something out. It worked in improv. Maybe I can try it out in real life. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I do. I think was also because I did a lecture recently at a cathedral, of all the places for me to be, and it was about comedy and mental health. And I also talked about the benefits of laughter. I don't know, when you all do your improv classes, and when we all do our shows online, and when we all do our bits and bobs, I'm often constantly laughing at the things that my fellow improvisers are doing. And there is clinical evidence of the benefits of laughter, including raising your serotonin levels, including strengthening abdominal muscles and burning calories. So many good things, and including they've even yoga's jumped on the train with laughing yoga. But that's another part of it. Like at the end of an improv session, my sides often do hurt because of the amount of laughing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, laughter is so important.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I must say, for me, because I've done long form improv, and so I've even done a 24-hour improv show, and that's mentally quite taxing. But we're all told to have a soap buddy, somebody that looks after you and you check in with. And that's always often very funny. There is some emotional moments in it, or an emotional song that you'll do. I find pure long form improv, where sometimes it's very emotionally exposing, I have a lot of difficulty with, and that might be a character that I have. But opening up pure emotionally is my thing that I have difficulty with, whereas I feel a lot safer in short form improv, because I know the scene will end. Please let it end. But I also like the predictability of rhythm. And I've been doing a bit of work at the moment on audience psychology. And when you're doing a scene, you think about, when's the audience laughing? Is it gone a bit quieter now? When do we finish the scene? When do we have a transition? And for me, I think getting into that rhythm on a stage really makes me feel grounded. And I feel a lot more comfortable there, because I know kind of how this environment works, and these interactions are going to go with the audience and myself. That's some stuff for you.
Right. That's why I love live improv. I mean, I miss it. Zoom is great, but it's that instant instant
Feedback?
gratification.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of knowing, oh, that worked. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's keep digging in on that one. Or if it doesn't hit, then okay, let's move on to something else. It's that audience is that gauge. That's why I love live theater. It's very
Absolutely.
it's so freeing because it's like when you don't hear the audience, you kind of freeze up in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can perform the hell out of something, but something is like closed because you're like, did that work? I don't know. That joke. Like, I mean, I went in on it. Was it worth the effort? I can't tell. But tells me afterward.
Completely empathise with you on that. What about you, Dan? Because obviously you've been doing improv for a year. You are effectively, you're in preschool of improv, even though you don't act like it when you're performing, darling. How's that journey for you? You're obviously, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I don't have I don't have any experience with theatre at all, like as an audience or as a performer. So I'm trying to think how I first came. So I think it was I saw Brian, who's always the leader of our Postansky improv group. I saw him posting on a Facebook group, and so I was like, this seems interesting. I want to also get into something creative because otherwise I'm just like stuck in a rut of like working a 9-to-5 job and just doing nothing else in my spare time. So my best friend sort of encouraged me to give it a go because he has experience with theatre. So I turned up, and I'm David, I think you might be able to vouch for this, but I'm actually painfully shy. Like,
yeah. Okay. So, Danny, the interesting thing, especially we've been doing these shows online, is I met you once pre-lockdown. Literally the penultimate extreme improv show we had before there was the lockdown. Literally a week before everything locked down. In fact, I met you. I met Brian. And a couple of other guys because we had a show in Portsmouth. And you were all great. Danny, you were great. So then when you popped up first in the chat here and then you said about doing the show, I was like, because I remember you were commenting on shows before I even realised that you were Danny who I'd met in Portsmouth. And I was like, get on the stream. And yeah, obviously you've been doing the shows like with us for the last 3 or 4 months now or something like this. Yeah, and I can say, great. I was about to put you over in such a nice way, right? I was going to say that one of the things when you're a director of shows and things is you get to see people's development and stuff, and I just see how much more into things you've got over time, how much more comfortable you've got. It's great seeing lots of people just being able to relax and we'll chat to each other when we're like on messages and things off shows, and it's just connecting with people, and it builds people's confidence, and it builds people where they can feel that they can be a bit cheeky to each other, case in point, or just just relax and open up and become a little bit more extrovert. Not that you have to be extrovert, and you don't even have to be extrovert to do improv, because I would say I'm an incredibly shy person myself.
Oh.
I think when because the first time I turned up for a session with Portsmouth Improv Experience, and I think it was Sarah wasn't there for this one. She was there the second time I turned up. So it was me, Brian, and a couple of other people, and I just like stiff as a board. I don't know what I'm doing, which is ironic because obviously it's improv. So when I was called upon to have to do something, I think one of the first thing I had to do was some sort of similar to like extreme monologue, except I was allowed to repeat words.
Yeah, so it's not a sadistic game.
Yeah, but obviously even then I was like, okay, I've got to do it on this subject. What do I do? I was just too busy thinking and trying to actively be funny that I don't think I was actually running to the room at the time. not so much in an awkward way, but it's kind of like, okay, well, he's clearly new. But I think it was like, as I sort of started going to more and more of them, also I started opening up more. I think actually Brian actually said that since I started coming, obviously, like David said, that my involvement has obviously gotten better, and I seem to be coming out of my shell a lot more. But despite all of that, there's still always going to be a part of me that's kind of like doubting myself, you know, like I don't know.
But you won. You won this week.
You did win, and also.
It's been 3 months. You won.
To be fair, if like, just for anyone who's been watching the Extreme Improv shows, we'll usually end, and we always make the joke that if you do the best impressions, you win the show. Going back a couple of years, we would have the Extreme Monologue as the finale game. If that was still the case, Danny would never be not champion. So,
yeah, actually, that's very true. Danny's the king of Extreme Monologuing. I must say, I see what you're saying, Danny, because I think I was introduced to a different personality types thing that I was looking into a while ago called the Enneagram. But I know that when you approach improv, I actually could probably imagine I'm not shy at all. I'll talk to anyone, their dog, I'll talk to anyone. Which I've still got my doubts, but I drown it out with the sound of my camp voice. But when I approach new things, is I get really stuck in, and I'm quite happy to fail and then have another go, like a really drunk toddler. But some people, the more theorist sort of people, want to do better by sitting back, being a bit quieter, because then you get a better understanding of the entire environment. I wish I could be a bit more like you, Danny, and be a bit more reserved in my approach to new experiences, because I think I probably would have cocked up a little bit less if I'd actually taken my time. So it's not a wrong approach, it's just a different one.
But that's one of the things
absolutely.
that I actually love about improv, is that I can make as many mistakes as comes out of me, but it's all right, because sometimes those mistakes are kind of a win in a sense.
No, absolutely. And Hannah, how long have you been doing improv, Hannah?
I've been doing it for about 10 years, believe it or not, but it's only really just become like a full-time thing since the start of lockdown, because it became a lot more accessible for me. I think, like many people, the doors just flew open and it was all online. Whereas before I knew of improv, I'd done bits of improv, but nothing really that I could sink my teeth into. So although obviously lockdown's been awful and COVID shouldn't exist, it's opened doors that, you know, I'm very, very thankful for. And I think that's one of the positive things that's come out of such a horrible time.
None of us would have met.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, I've worked with people like across the other side of the world. Like, the limit, I only go to Wales. Like, I am crap when it comes to travelling. I go to Wales, but then I work with people from like America and India and like just places that I'm like, I'd just love to go there one day. And I'm like sitting there talking to someone, and I'm like, it's so weird that I'm sitting here in my room and it feels like we're in the same room.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I think, I see what you were saying. Definitely it's brought us together. I was thinking about, because I was thinking, like, are you part of a group that regularly like gets together and stuff?
Yeah, so I'm part of Boss Birds Improv, which is an all-women improv company in Liverpool. I joined the company actually during lockdown. I was doing the main director, Emma Bird. She's got an improv school called Liverpool Comedy Improv, and so I was doing just regular classes. And then she just got in touch with me, and she was just like, "I think you're really good. Would you like to meet the girls?" And then I was like, yeah, sure, a bit nervous about it. And then met the team. They're absolutely amazing. And then the next thing I know, they were like, yeah, so great. Here's a key. Come in, you know. And it was a bit like, oh, okay. But, you know, I started there. And then all of a sudden it's like Extreme comes along. And then Chattanooga comes along. And I've done stuff with, what's the name? Second City, Chicago as well. And it's just like, it's a bit mind-blowing when you say it out loud, really. It's like, little me from Liverpool, all of a sudden I'm working with all these amazing people. And like, that doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you have said, like, 'cause obviously, like, bring it slightly back to mental health, would you have seen yourself in this situation as a person throwing yourself into these massive international groups and being like, all right, Hannah, I'm going to throw myself off a chair live on camera? What?
No. Not at all, no. I'm as a person, I always like to say I'm like a true Gemini. I'm either too much or not enough. I don't really have like a middle ground in unless I'm ridiculously tired or drunk. So
yes.
So like
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oosh. So it's like sometimes as myself I have to hang back and I have to watch and observe, and in social situations, one thing I was worried about coming into lockdown was how I was going to cope socially, because obviously no one saw each other, and it was like I'd go and see my nan and just be like, "You're right, nan," and then that'd be it. And like, so then when lockdown started to ease, I was like, how am I going to cope? But because I've been doing improv online, I like it's weird to say that I'm 10 times more confident than I was going into lockdown, coming out of it. I mean, I say that I'm from a place that's now got a high 3-tier lockdown situation. So we are back in, which is enjoyable. And so sexy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know, I think that's just my confidence, because I don't think I'm good at anything. So then when people say to me, oh, you'd really be good at this like team, or, oh, well done, you've done that. And I'll be sitting there going, thanks very much. But then in the back of my head, I'll be going, shut up, why you lying?
I hate compliments. If someone compliments me, I assume they owe me money. I
can't do it. The only time this will sound really weird, but the only time that I can deal with it is when I'm in character. So when the first time we did Werewolf, and I won the first time as the wolf, and people were like, oh, well done. Like, if that was people saying it to me, I'd be like, but because I was still in this mode of this character, I was like, well, thanks so much. I just do it on a regular, but like, I can't take compliments. It's awful.
I've noticed that in quite a few improvisers that I've worked with through my time. A lot of people struggle with compliments. However, I also met a lot of improvisers that do ask for them, not asking directly, but will say things like, how did I do? Was I any good? Did I make a mistake? Was I terrible? We're prompted not to ask those questions in our group. We're prompted to ask, how was the show? To remember that you're not on your own on that stage. There's a few of you, and it's about serving the show and not your ego. But I find receiving compliments make me feel very uncomfortable. I've noticed I'm very impartial. If someone compliments me, be like, oh, thanks, and suddenly ask a question about them, usually about the space-time continuum, because it'll take more time.
I changed the topic.
Yeah.
I changed the subject. They're like, oh, well done. I'm like, great. Look at the weather. Isn't it awful? like I just change it because it's so uncomfortable. It's so I like it as well, because I'm like, that's nice that I'm being recognised. And, it's always nice to get a bit of recognition, but then at the same time, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Zizi, why is it so horrible receiving compliments?
Well, I was going to say, actually, I think when people, they ask, how was I, it's part of the same thing. It's probably less likely it's about feeding an ego, and it's more likely about trying to gain some kind of reassurance. So people tend to come at it at two angles. They'll either ignore and dismiss compliments, or they'll try and get lots of reassurance. And it's actually just two sides of the same thing. And that plays out in normal life too. That's not just a performance thing. That's a human experience, isn't it? That we all experience at some time. I always just try, and I always feel uncomfortable when I get a compliment. But always feel uncomfortable when I get a compliment. But I always try and say, oh, thank you. And just acknowledge it, say thank you, and
also shrink a little bit as well, like, oh, I don't deserve this.
Yeah. If I can just interject for a moment, just because we do have an audience and they've been giving some feedback, and no, it's fine. I've been trying to just edge in ever so slightly, but everything was so good I didn't want to interject properly.
If anyone's going to say anything about my driving, you're getting it.
I don't think they did, actually. I think you've got a pass there.
Okay.
But let's have a look. So this goes back a little way. We're going to have to, You have to watch the stream back to see when some of these comments came through, just to know what they're referring to. But Marty Gordon on YouTube, who I think we've met Marty. Of course, we know Marty.
Sure.
Says, sorry, I was going to say I think we've met, but yes, it is Marty. He says, I feel the same way, Ashley. I'm not sure what that refers to, obviously. Tracy, who's been on the show. Yeah, there you go. Tracy says, I think the fact improv generally means a troupe means there is a belonging to a group. I couldn't agree more. That is so vital to the experience. I have missed that so much in the past few years, and getting back into it because of Rona has helped me. So shout out to Rona. Marty then says, yeah, hello Rona. Marty says a lot of improvisers are extremely shy, me included. Tracy responds to Marty saying, it's amazing that I can never tell when a group of performers who are out of that group would say they're a shy person. It's lovely that improv night brings out a different side of someone. So they're very active in the comments. I perhaps won't read them all. Tracy says, ditto, bravo, Danny, for what you'd said. Oh yeah, that's for winning, because Marty says, I haven't won one yet, Danny. So you're just on one. Nancy says, I've only tipped my toe into improv, but what I found difficult to do was to let go and embrace that failure is fun. Because I am so self-conscious, it was difficult. How do you all deal with that? My dog is literally trying to get in the room as I'm saying this.
Bring him in.
Go for it.
Bring the dog.
Will.
I'll speak a bit for Nancy, because Nancy's a very, very good friend of mine. But also bring the dog in. Can we say it's a therapy dog?
It's a therapy dog.
What kind of dog is it? Do they just going to bring
I think it's some kind of squishy.
Literally carrying
Oh,
the dog.
This is
therapy
Buddy.
dog? The dog looks like Stacey Solomon.
She's so beautiful.
Buddy, say hello to the people.
If that's an insult to the dog or just Stacey.
Stacey Solomon. So yeah, I was just speaking on behalf of Nancy. Nancy is a friend of mine, and she won't mind saying that she has difficulties with anxiety, and she gets support where and when she needs it. And she did tip her to, and as long as I've known her, she's been one of the funniest people that I know. Very, very quick with words, a punsmith, if you will, and very, very chatty. We'll talk to people like face to face. But I think the idea of getting on a stage for her was quite terrifying. Although she has been to see several shows, but when it came down to it, she was obviously excellent, and she was fantastic in the shows. And I was lucky enough because Lee knew that I think Nancy was a bit about doing it. He put me in both shows with her, and she was fantastic. She was great, and I was absolutely amazed that somebody who does suffer with anxiety like she does did that. And I think it's because of also how much fun she was having in the classes, because all mistakes were celebrated. You kind of problem solve things that you could do differently together, and it was and also I think it was that sense of belonging, meeting new people that you would often never meet in any other walk of life. And I think also that because a lot of people that go to improv, it does seem to attract people with it's not all everybody with mental health issues, but it does seem to attract us. We're also more forgiving of when somebody needs time, or somebody needs space, or somebody needs different ramps to support them into the group. And I think that's why it's so good, because it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of love.
I like that. That's cute.
You in it?
Yeah. I think there's something in that kind of like when you're being someone else, or you're playing a character as well. You know, there's something quite freeing if you're normally an introvert person, or you're normally having to, like me, having to think about what you're saying, and being quite aware, quite self-aware, then to be able to just jump into a character where you can be really bloody horrible if you want to be, or you can you can do anything you want, really. I think
I also think I can't remember who said this, but people that have been through more can laugh at more stuff. And I think people that have had issues with their mental health often look at the world a bit different, and can often, as a defense mechanism and their own personal support mechanism, find the funny in almost anything and everything, including made-up characters and situations. Like you're a Swedish camel that's arguing with its neighbour about Wi-Fi, but you'd still find something in it to make it human and draw life to it. And I think that must be a transferable skill that from life experience that's so attractive.
About that.
Yeah, okay, so sorry about interruption by little Buddy there. He wanted to make a cameo appearance. But
Lovely, so beautiful.
yeah, it's a point I wanted to make just on what I was talking about when Buddy appeared was going back to Nancy's comment that you then were both discussing about embracing failure. And for me, one of the things I always teach and direct with improv is that if you do something and it goes right, great. If you do something and goes wrong, great. There's really it's a win-win situation if it's a lose-lose situation, because when we're performing improv, we're acting, and just like in every walk of life, things go wrong. Literally every film you see isn't someone always getting something right. It will start off, something will go wrong within 5 or 10 minutes. They'll spend the rest of the film trying to put things right. We deal with things going wrong all the time. And when we're performing and it's like, oh, that didn't go great, then I always say to people, we love watching bloopers, we love watching funny videos of people tripping over or saying something silly. And if you just know that, well, if you say something very witty, something smart, something very clever, the audience will be like, oh yeah, that was good. If you say something that's the complete opposite to that and it's ridiculous, the audience will be like, that was ridiculous, that's funny, and you kind of can't lose. And when you understand this performing improv, it's so freeing. It's so liberating, because something for me, again, saying that I feel an incredibly shy person. I know that some people say they perform on stage and like performing and they like doing improv because they get to be someone else. They get to pretend to be a different character. For me, I would actually say, and I'm sure others probably should connect with this, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is that when I'm performing, I feel like, well, now I get to be me. So it's not that I go on stage to not be me and to be someone else. It's like, well, this is me. Hello, everyone. And this allows me to be in front of people and say, oh, I get to do whatever I want silly. And afterwards, it's just like, it breaks the ice so much that you can talk to people and say, yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? And, oh, you found that funny and it was fun doing it. And, did you enjoy it? And when you get that, again, like I think Elkie said earlier, that instant gratification, that response from the audience where you do something, you get that feedback, and it's like, I enjoyed doing that, you enjoyed watching that, you called out suggestions and stuff like that. We were all having fun together. And that's something which is so amazing about, in particular, improv. Like performing in plays, you can get that kind of response as well. But I think with improv, it's because you're being spontaneous and creative at the same time. Where it's like, oh, it's something that came from me. You can feel proud of the ideas, and it really it gives me a boost in any day when I do improv.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And I loved what you said there about it's bouncing off of other people. So it's a team creation. Yes, there's things that you create yourself you can be proud of, but there's also like the things that are coming are like a reverb from what someone else has given. It's a ripple effect. And so that creates connections of people that you probably might otherwise take years to build. Because you've had that relationship in that scene where you've developed something and you've bounced those ideas off each other and you've found it together in that moment. You create a connection with someone on that level that isn't made in an instant normally.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think about we're always taught in our class that improv is about teaching people to be 4-year-olds again, because we build all these barriers throughout our lives, our coping strategies. But meeting another improviser, because obviously you are kind of like weakening your boundaries to make your improv successful. Like for instance, when I've had one-to-ones with like Elkie and Hannah, when we've been setting up doing bits here and there, the connection's already instant, because although you may have different improv styles, you already know that the other one probably will get on a stage and has no shame and so they're not going to judge, because improvisers really, we can't judge because we don't want to be judged, and we just don't judge. And I think that's why it kind of works, because improvisers are often a type of person who doesn't like barriers and kind of wants to smash them all down.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's.
No, carry on, Alki.
It also goes to the point that Hannah made earlier about people feeling weird about getting compliments, right? Off stage, right? But we have no qualms about getting the compliments while we're on stage, and the compliments is the feedback, the laughter, the oh no, whoa, okay, that's our compliment, and we love it because if we feed on it. But when somebody's in our face saying that was great, we need to
yeah, that's true.
right? It's like I mean, I don't have the same qualms about getting compliments. My thing with compliments is I always feel like I say the wrong thing back. I don't feel like I'm appreciative enough, because you always want to, like, when you get a compliment, you want to give that person the benefit of knowing that you appreciated them coming to you and even saying that, because they didn't have to. They could have been like, oh, that was a good show. I'm going home. But you said, oh, that was funny. That was great. You took the time to say that. So I feel like, okay, I should feel, I feel the need to let them know. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And sometimes I feel like, did I sound sincere? Because I have a tendency with me, I'm very dry. I have a very dry tone at times, most of the time. And when I talk, I sometimes I'll throw a joke in there, but because of my tone, people don't understand that I'm joking,
Yes.
and they take it for serious, and they're like,
That's because you're in America.
No, but do you know what? I have a very similar experience. I often joke with people that, like, on my acting CV, where it says, like, vocal quality, it's, like, sarcastic. Because when I try to sound sincere to people, people just don't believe it. And I'm like, no, that was really good. Oh, they're like, okay, David, okay. I was like, no.
No, that's the same with me,
Yeah.
Exactly the same. I think it must be a comedy style. Maybe it's just our style. If I also go to do like a proper eye contact, well, obviously eye contact's a challenge with me anyway, but if I'm trying to like give eye contact and give a face-to-face compliment, it's first of all, it's awful. It's just awful for anyone involved. It doesn't sound sincere. It sounds like I'm forcing it. Usually if I'm complimenting somebody sincerely, I always follow it up with an insult, because then it makes me feel better. Like there's balance.
I've got a comment on my stream actually from sort of earlier on in the conversation from Liz, who says that she's listening, but she can't relate to the discussion because she loves circle dancing and she plays the ukulele in a group, but she doesn't improvise. And I'm wondering what would everyone in this panel say to somebody who's watching that enjoys creative things but has never improvised before?
well, first of all, she does circle dancing.
Yeah.
What is that?
Circle dancing. I think it's when, well, I don't know, it's when you dance in a circle.
Well, regardless, there's dancing involved, and she should be able to relate, because with dancing, there's also lots of improv. You got to see what works, right? So I'm sure she can relate, because improv is just freestyle acting.
Yeah.
She knows how to freestyle dance. I'm sure she's, gone off that circle, made some squares, rectangles. I don't know what square. Wait. Circle.
Yeah, basically circle dancing. Yeah, circle dancing is just line dancing, but round.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
No, it's not. I'm lying. I would be interested.
Someone in the audience, tell us, what is circle dancing?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to look it up.
I'd be interested in Danny's response to this, because I think because Danny started improv, he's been doing the shortest amount of time out of all of us, so he's got the freshest take, his first foray into improv.
Yeah.
You might have a great insight into this, Mr. George.
we'll see. So yeah, so I think it wasn't for like several months until Portsmouth Improv was their own first show. So when I was also given the chance to do that, I was like, yeah, I'd be up for that. And then it's like, then it dawned on me, oh, hold on, there's a live audience. Do I want to do that? And it's kind of like, oh no. And then it's like the internalizing all of the the self-doubt, and it turns out what I do something wrong. But then when it came to actually performing, like when there wasn't really a stage, but when I got into the performing area, it kind of, like if you're doing it with a group of people, I imagine that would be the same with circle dancing, I hope. When you're there with everyone else, you're like, okay, well, we're all in this sort of together. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, then it's not just solely on you. But it's not like it's your fault you went wrong. It's like, okay, well, let's as a group, let's see what we can do, because I think we had that conversation after. Like, okay, well, this is what we think went well. This is what I think we can improve upon. This is what we're aiming for next time. And it's like not spilling my fries on the floor for a start. So yeah, it's like just having the confidence to not just rely on yourself, but also on your group, your colleagues, your peers. Because it's not. I think I forget if it was David or Ashley, but someone said that it's not just you at the end of the day. It's
and you get that in dance.
Everyone.
It's the group. Yeah. And actually, I feel like I need to. Sorry, go on, David. I mean,
I was just going to say, probably none of you know this, but I used to, when I was trying to think, when I was about 14, I also started doing dance, not circle dancing, admittedly, some sort of hip hop / street style thing. So I can kind of understand Liz's perspective from a dance environment at the same time. It's exactly the same thing. It's not just you. It's other people on there performing with you. So, no one's going to be like singling you out. They're just going to be like, wow, this group is awesome, or this group are good.
Yeah,
or,
that's true.
Yeah.
I also thoroughly recommend your friend who's commented, Zizi, to go and see a show. Go and see a short form show. It was when I went to go and see the first one that my group does. Halfway through, I thought to myself, I want to be on that stage, and that was the moment. I want to have as much fun as they're having.
And you know what? I feel like I need to kind of make a bit of a confession, because I feel like that I obviously I haven't been doing improv comedy for that long, but I was doing acting before. I've been acting for a long time, but I was always a straight actor. I've always perceived myself to have very little comedy, in me. But and that show where Danny and David met, I was meant to be there, and I actually chickened out.
Were you indeed?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's some time ago now. It was that rings the vaguest of bell to me. Because I remember
this has turned into a telenovela.
I know. I feel like I'm on the hot seat now.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, do you know what? Like this. Okay, so this almost comes back to my memory, just about like thinking on the day who we're expecting, who's going to be there, kind of thing. Oh, you should have done it. That would have been lovely. But next time when we're in the real world, down that neck of the woods. I will just come briefly to some more of the comments, because the comments are coming through thick and fast, so we'll try to get to some of them. Pablo Lewin on Facebook says, it allows me to be a child again, play. Kapithev says, Extreme Improv gave me my first Halloween experience. I love Halloween, but I don't get to celebrate because it's not tradition in my country. So dressing up as Dracula and doing the show was a blast. That was great. I don't know that related quite to, well, great that you've got Halloween in there.
God love him.
But the great thing that I can take from that is it allows you to do things that perhaps you wouldn't do otherwise. It allows you to explore things and different cultures as well. So, but let's have a quick look what else we've got here. Very nice. I will read this out, even though it just compliments me. So we say about taking compliments.
Oh.
Tracy says, the improv community galvanised quickly thanks to people like David. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for a compliment like that. That's very, very kind. Tracy says to Hannah, you are the bomb. Tracy is just showing the love to everyone right now. Let's have a look. Oh, look at that. And Tracy says, something I've been doing is complimenting non-stop whenever I can. So I've seen a few people like John Eugen do it. John was on our show a week or so ago. Sharing Facebook pages and showcasing improvisers, and it's lovely. Scroll down, see if we've got other people's comments. Not that there's anything wrong with yours, Tracy. Let's have a look. Nancy says, thanks for your feedback on that. Great discussion. Thanks, guys. Yeah, loads of lovely comments. Pablo's written a little monologue for us. I won't go into it all now. But he says, improv has helped me in real life when I can start conversations with anybody and real-time play with normal people, for example. So I used to travel a lot with improv. I'm not going to read it all, Pablo. But what I'm going to take from that is what you've said at the beginning there. Well, normal people, non-improvisers, I guess.
Normies.
But, like, okay, something I think is an area that we can discuss a little bit here is applied improv. So taking improv skills and applying it to workplace situations, everyday life. Does it help you to be able to strike up conversations? Now, I'm going to say something which may contradict it slightly just to give us something to talk on it. Because I'm such a shy person, for years and years, people would say, oh, but David, when you're on stage, this and that. David, we'll just be a character. And for me, I'd always say, it's not 100% the same. So I can't decide, well, I'm just going to say something silly or outrageous like I would on stage. And because it's a different context, the things I'd say on stage don't always 100% apply to real life. Exactly. So there are things you can take from it. But it isn't just a given. This is one of the things that people misunderstand about me, is that they'll be like, David, you're an improviser. David, like, even with doing the shows during lockdowns, like, David, you talk all of the time and stuff like this. But then they meet me in real life and I'm super shy. And I can say that improv especially, but acting has really helped me. But it's not 100% guarantee that if you're a good improviser or confident improviser that it 100% translates to what you're like in the real world.
I think one thing that it does do is that those first interactions are often possibly going to be more successful interactions, because I think we're taught in improv we have to read our scene partner, we look at their body language, we look at the character they've created, we're looking at the emotional choice they've made. And we will oftentimes either purposely then change our character to suit it, whether we juxtapose it or whether we meet it or do a derivation of it. And because of that, we become more observant of another person's traits. And I think when we meet strangers, you do start to look at their body language a little bit and see, are they, first of all, is this the kind of person that wants a stranger approaching them? But also, what kind of approach are you going to take? Is it somebody that wants a confident approach, or do you think you're going to start mimicking them a little bit? So I think there is actually subconscious transferable skills we learn in improv to make them more successful. I don't know if you agree or not.
I completely agree. Hannah, what would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, I would say that I agree as much as I don't agree. That's not helpful.
No, that's completely helpful. Because things are contradictory.
Yeah, on a personal, no, I have very minor Asperger's, which I think I mentioned last time we were on here. And I used, not so much now that I'm older, but when I was younger, I used to struggle with eye contact, and I used to struggle with reading people and knowing how to approach people and how to start a conversation. And I never used to be able to get my words out. But then the thing is, with like what Zizi just said, what Sarah just said, when she played the straight characters, I was always put as straight characters, and I was always doing the big dramatic Shakespeare, which sounds really weird because I'm a bit of a clown as well. And then all of a sudden, I did this really weird turn where I went into comedy, and I enjoyed it a lot more than playing the serious because it felt closer to me as I know myself. So being able to do more comedy-based stuff and then moving into improv Now when I meet people in wherever the setting is, I have this moment of, in my head, I go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But then what actually comes out is just an everyday normal person. And I actually told someone that I'm quite close to the other day who didn't know that I had very mild Asperger's. And I told them, and they said, well, I'd never know because you're very confident. And I said, but the thing is, yes, I'm very confident, but you don't know how long it's taken me to be like that. And even that very confidence that you see, I don't 100% feel it. So it is me, the person you meet. But there's the other side of me, and this is where the improv hasn't helped, because I still question every single damn thing that I do and I say. But when I'm doing improv, I don't give a flying moo. So it's absolutely fine, you know. And people have said to me before, you know, you go on stage and you're just like this big character, and then you come off stage and you're relatively quiet. And I'm like, yeah. And there's something that David said before, actually, when you were saying about going on stage and having that escape as a character. I feel that as a character, but when you can walk on stage as yourself and go, hi, I'm Hannah, this is it, then it's like, there's just such an amazing feeling, because you're like, I'm not hiding behind a character anymore. This is actually me just doing improv as myself, playing all these games and showing what I can do. Then the little characters come in, because they always have to somewhere, because we're all a bit crazy like that. But in real life, when you can actually like just go into a situation, because like with jobs that I've had in the past, I've actually been let go of jobs because of my aspic nature, and I've not always, at that point I didn't know that was the reason. And it was only as I got older and I started learning more about it and how I could fix it, and then find it, actually, to be honest with you, improv is what's fixed it, because I've learned how to read people through doing improv, which is a very strange thing to do. So yeah, it's helped me as much as it hasn't, but the more I do it, the more I love it. And the more Sorry?
How old were you when you were diagnosed, or when you found out?
Here's the thing. So my mom was a specialist teaching assistant, and she always kind of knew that there was a little something there, but because of all the drama and all the working with animals that I've done in the past and still now, it was never 100% clear. When I became a teenager, because that's the thing, when I was a teenager, it became even more apparent. I was only diagnosed at the start of lockdown.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But it's been a thing for that long. And the thing is, God bless the NHS, but there's only one person in Merseyside who can do that diagnosis. So I've had to wait for a very long time, all whilst knowing. So when he said, oh yeah, no, you are, but it's like a very small percentage, and it's just the slight social sides that you will be able to deal with at some point if you can find a way to cope with it. I was like, I already knew this. Did I need the diagnosis to know what I already know?
Hannah, can I ask, getting that diagnosis,
yeah.
Did it change anything about how you looked back on things from the past? Did it say like, well, did it allow you to think, well, I can look at myself and think differently about how I view things or interact with the world around you? Anything like that?
There was a lot of things that when I got the diagnosis, there was a lot of things that looking back I really regretted, because in my head I knew that it was probably what it actually ended up being. I suppose I could have probably started helping myself a little bit earlier on. So I think that was my only regret, that I could have done something earlier. Stayed in jobs that I enjoyed instead of being let go, because, you know, I'm a crazy person. But then at the same time, no, as well, because what happened in the past, and I couldn't change that, but I've learned from it now, and so I know moving forward what I can do to help myself. And I'm always very, very happy to talk to other people who are in a similar situation where they're on the spectrum, but it's the smallest size of it, so it's like the first 5%. So we almost don't exist in a way, which is like really scary thing to think, because we're there, but we're not there. So we're like a deadly fart. That's the only way I can think about it. Kind of just, we're just there. We just linger. You smell us for a minute and then we just evaporate. And then we just come back when you have another curry. That's kind of like what it's like. That's what I feel it's like. And then I say stuff like that and I regret it straight away.
Yeah, no, don't regret it.
Thank you for coming for Hannah's TED Talk.
Okay.
Hannah, you said
no, go ahead,
you said you kind of knew that before they gave you the diagnosis, so you had read up on it before or something?
Yeah, I'd not so much read because I'm a bit lazy, but watching on YouTube a guy who's a professor in I forget what his name is. Well, he's a guy anyway, and he does stuff with people who are on the spectrum, crossing the board, ADHD, Asperger's, autism, whatever you want to call it. And I started watching Asperger's in girls because it's different from girls to boys, and it's different with your age group as well. On top of that, whatever life you have led and things that have happened in your past that could trigger you as a person. And so I started watching him, and there were moments where I was like, that's me, bloody hell, that's me. And then there were moments where I was like, no, can't relate to that, that's not me whatsoever. So all the relations that I had, that's the 5%, but everything I couldn't relate to, and there were more things that I couldn't relate to actually than there was. So that was kind of why I was like, am I, aren't I? Because am I meant to be the full thing, or is it? But it affects people in different ways. So when I finally got the diagnosis, it was like, actually, it doesn't affect me all that much. It's more me in my head kind of thing and how I need to cope with it, if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that.
That's why improv is being such a big thing for me, because I did an amazing teacher from America called Jay Suko, and I did a class with him whenever I can, when I can afford it. And he basically said, just embrace the weirdness. If you're weird, go weirder and just embrace it. And it just stayed with me, because I was like, yeah, I am weird. And
Absolutely.
I've never embraced that. And maybe
also,
I should.
I'd also argue that you can tell an improviser that's forcing the funny, but those people who are innately weird, an improviser that I think about, and he, we all know him very well, he's called James Day. He is one of the most unique people I've ever met in my life. He's totally honestly himself. Doesn't put a front on. He's genuinely him. And then when you put him on a stage for an accent game, he can't do any accent. I got him to try and do his own accent. He couldn't do it. Himself, and he couldn't do it. But the issue with him, he does it as best he can, and he goes at it 110%. And that's why, for me, he's one of the funniest improvisers I've seen on a stage, because he's unabashedly him, and he embraces all of his weird, and he just kind of goes with it. This is a guy. Sorry.
Sorry.
It's all right. He's a guy who did that.
I think the other thing that I'd like to add very quickly, sorry, I'll just interrupt, because if I don't say it now, I will forget, because many brain farts have happened today. It's partying all night. If in the acting, in the creative industry that we are all accumulated and part of, my Asperger's exists. In the outside world, it doesn't exist. Meaning there are more people I know from the creative world, our little creative weirdness, who know more about my Asperger's than people outside. So, I like to keep that way, because I like to separate it. So in the outside world, when I'm doing something that's not acting wise, I'll be quiet, I'll be awkward, and it's totally fine. And sometimes I'll slip in and out of being me, which is totally great. But I mean, when you're working with horses that need rehabilitation, I mean, I don't want to be weird when one of them get kicked in the head, because that will add to the weirdness. So that kind of stays there. But in the acting world, I feel safer being it's that safety. That's what it is. It's safety, being able to say, you guys are in my world, I'm in your world, because we all do the same thing and we all love it, and this is me, and hold that, and I trust you. But in the outside world, I'd never do that, because it's labelled disabled in the outside world, and it's discrimination, and if you don't understand it, you're scared of it, and then I think that's why I've lost jobs as well, because people don't get it, or they don't feel like I can do anything.
That's why no one on the outside of the creative world knows that I'm gay. I love that Sarah laughed first.
The thing that really spoke to me about that conversation that you guys were just having there was about about this. So earlier I mentioned that I chickened out of a show and I haven't been doing comedy that long. And one of the reasons for that is because I'm very dyslexic, and as a child I had ADHD, and I had a lot of problems as a child, and so I've always viewed myself as a bit weird, and I've always struggled to understand some people's comedy, and I've always struggled to kind of like I can't do the alphabet, for instance. And I have to go like this on my hand to know my left and right, and so sometimes things just go over my head. Yeah, I do all that with my hands.
I don't know syllables. It's all good. As people from Extreme will tell you.
Sometimes I struggle to say words, and I've worked a lot academically to get past my dyslexia and all that kind of stuff. But when it came to comedy, I used to do a little bit of murder mystery stuff. So that's where I started with the acting, and then I did a bit of drama teaching and a few other things. And someone from the days when I did the murder mysteries, because I think there was a little bit of comedy in some of my characters, we were still very good friends, Paul, and he said to me, "Hey, look, we really need some people to get involved in this comedy stuff." And then he also told me about Brian's improv sessions, and got me to go along. And at first I was thinking like, well, I can't do comedy. What are you talking about? But I was quite kind of taken aback by the offer, and I thought, well, he obviously thinks that I can, so I'll give it a go. And I just felt for a long time that I just couldn't do it because I just don't understand stuff. I don't get it. And then I realised, doing some of the extreme stuff, which I'm grateful for Danny sort of encouraging me to do, is that actually it doesn't matter if you don't understand. You can just say you don't understand, and then that's quite funny.
Yeah.
And then just trying is enough. And people were grateful for that effect, and so also it's helped me to sometimes learn. Like I've actually become a little bit more astute in the things that before really confused me. So
if I can add to that, actually, Zizi, speak a little bit like behind the scenes, behind the magic sort of thing of it. One of the ways I've designed extreme improv is because saying it's extreme and stuff like this, I will say, and I don't mind saying it on this stream like this, because a lot of people who are going to be watching this are going to be interested in improv and this sort of thing. So I don't mind revealing this behind the scenes aspect to it. But having some of the harder, more extreme games, it's to present to the audience that there's going to be something challenging, knowing full well that there's a fine line where we just are right on the edge of it, of things are challenging, so people don't really expect us to do well. And because it takes away and it sets up the expectation of you're going to see people fail at something, but they're going to try. The audience, the psychology of it, which I'm so into audience psychology, is they want to see you try. If you fail, they didn't have a huge expectation that you're going to do it, because it's hard. And a lot of people say after shows, I don't know how you do that because I couldn't do that and stuff like this. But again, behind the scenes of it, once you've played a lot of these games, you get the idea of it, you know what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes you'll achieve and you'll do well, and they'll be like, wow, that was great. But then when you attempt to do something, when you're told to do an impression, when I first put together Extreme Improv, and I said a big thing we're going to do on this show is impressions, we're like, we can't do voices, we're not John Coleshaw, we're not what's the other, Alistair McGowan or someone like this, we can't do impressions. I was like, that's the point, we can't do impressions. We're going to do the alphabet backwards, and we're going to do the alphabet as it's written on a keyboard, and everyone's like, I don't know that. I said, that's where it's going to be fun, because if you go into something and people might say, oh, we're dyslexic, or they might say like Hannah says, what's a syllable? Some people literally don't know what a syllable is to begin with, and you have to explain it's how you break down a word. and they'll be like, oh, I can't do that, and they'll be like, you'll be fine then, you know, because if you we set up the expectation that we're setting someone something difficult to do, and just the fact that they're going to have a go at it gets the audience very much on your side, and they're willing you to do well. You feel good because you're having a go at it. When it doesn't work out, you all laugh together, and I think there is an aspect from an audience perspective that when you see someone do something, it's a weird thing, and it's a little bit of a British thing in particular. We'll see people do well at something, and if they're doing too well, the audience will suddenly want the underdog to do well. They'll want the underdog to beat them. Where many years ago, when Manchester United would win every single year, people just wanted someone to beat them. In snooker, there was the player Stephen Hendry, 7-time world champion. People were more interested in seeing him defeated than were interested in seeing him win in the end. And it's a weird psychology, but when you set up like a show with the idea, and again, for people that do watch like our show, I'll say to people, if we do like the single syllable game or the or questions only, which can potentially go on indefinitely while someone's going well, I tell people that the psychology is that if you're doing too well, the audience won't be rooting for you anymore. They'll be rooting for anyone but you. And so there is a thing in that, I'll say, like, when you're doing so well, you've had your stage time, you've had your laugh, do something silly, get out of there, give someone else a turn, and the audience won't feel... I'm not saying that they feel intimidated or threatened that you're doing too well. It's just that you're relatable if you go wrong, because everyone goes wrong.
Because then you're not serving the show, you're serving your ego then.
Yeah, exactly.
In our showcase that we do, Lee, who we met at the last podcast, he's very much the UJ, but he runs our Laughter Academy. He also is often the compere of the show. And we also call him Bad Bear when he gets grouchy with the audience or he's doing whatever he's doing, or audience control. But he tells us in practice the reasons why we don't chat back to him all the time during the games and things like that is because he wants the audience to be on our side as the improvisers, and when he makes games harder and he puts us in more crap, he wants them rooting for us.
Yeah.
And that's why he also promotes the same idea that, like, if you're doing that, he'll always pair up one person who's really good at accents and one person who's James Day, or one person that struggles with accents, and he'll always. Because
poor James, he's been through it tonight, hasn't he?
He has.
I love him, really.
He bought me a board game. He beat me at a board game on Saturday, so he deserves it. He'll always do that and also, no matter what, the audience will always laugh harder at the person that can't do the accents. They will always get the bigger laugh because they're more relatable.
That's the thing that I've found, is in doing improv, that's what's made me fall in love with it, really, is that it doesn't matter that sometimes I've got no fucking idea what's going on, you know. And I recently did a workshop with the Pack Theatre in LA because the magical thing about lockdown is we're like world accessible now, and one of the things that Miles said on that was that if you don't understand what's going on, just say. Don't try and play the scene. Just say, look, what's going on? You know, and then the audience quite like that.
They probably don't know what's going on either.
And it gives you that bouncing board, and then you've got something to play off.
I was told never to apologise, which is really difficult because I say sorry about just breathing sometimes. When you are in a scene and you do something wrong, you're just like, oh, sorry. And it was actually, going back to Jay Suko, because he's an absolute legend, it was actually him who said to me, why are you apologising? Stop apologising. You never say sorry. If you've got yourself in the shit, just swim out of it. Like, you know, you don't have to ask someone to throw you a rope. Get yourself out of it. And there's such an amazing feeling about that. So, like, I hardly ever apologise now in improv. I just apologise everywhere else.
Yeah, unapologetic Hannah, we call it.
Apart from when I can't do single syllable words, I'm like, sorry. just to, say a word to get out because I know I can't carry on. But I think that's
say
like
sorry.
going to.
What, Danny?
Sorry, go on.
So you can, instead of saying sorry, you can just say soz.
Yeah, so
Yeah, there you go.
Soz,
I mean,
bro.
Scousers have many ways of saying sorry. I'm just polite about it.
that's true.
But I think what you were saying before, David, about setting up Extreme and how you've done it and everything like that. When I was doing,
I thought you were going in for a big compliment then, Hannah. Sorry.
I would have
We're
left
ready
it
for the
at
tension to build.
hang on, I've not finished, easy. Hold your horses.
Something about a lot of horses.
A lot of horses tonight. A lot of horses and farts. Anyway, when I was doing the thing with Second City, they said to me, "Is there a show that you've been on where you feel like it's a safe place to play?" And I went, "Yeah, actually there is." And I said, "It's a company called Extreme Improv." And I said, because the thing is, I said, I remember my first show, and I was absolutely terrified because up until the first show that I did, which I wasn't just saying, I hadn't actually done a live improv show. I'd done more of the training of it, and that was it. And I was absolutely terrified, but it was so safe, and it was just like so unapologetic, and it was funny that people were making mistakes. And like David, when you lead it, there's no, you don't feel like you're going, "Oh, she can't play this game," or "Oh, she's rubbish at it. Oh, for God's sake, I shouldn't have said yes." And then obviously you get more people who come onto the show, like Howard, who is an absolute legend in my head, doesn't know what's happening, but it just works every single time she's on, and I just love her for it. So
Also,
it's like,
I noticed she doesn't say sorry either. She's unapologetic.
no, she doesn't. She just goes with it. Everyone should be more Howard. But
I just want to, just in case Howard is watching, or just in case she's like, "What do you mean I don't know what I'm doing?" Howard just dives at things, and sometimes we'll get a sense that it's like she hasn't followed a rule or something, but she goes for it, and it's always brilliant. So,
and also she's always, no matter what, really a firm favourite to watch because she just does her, and no one else can do it.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing improv for as long as I've been doing it. It's done the shows, the amount that I've been doing it, and I will never be able to make an audience laugh as much as how I can. And everybody else in this group, of course. But it's just
no, you've said it now.
Well, well, I've been taught not to say sorry, so. And
what I was trying to say was Extreme is great. That was what I was trying to say, but I was going round in a circle to make myself sound really intelligent.
Yeah. Sorry, just to say a couple of other comments that we've got. We'll probably need to begin to wrap things up sooner rather than later. I've noticed we've lost Elkie just because I think she had to get somewhere or do something.
Get in a car.
But JD on YouTube says, as someone who's still relatively new to actually performing improv in this capacity, you guys have all helped me with my mental health a bunch. There's not a lot of improv where I live, so it's wonderful, which is a very nice compliment again. But also, like, I'd say to anyone out there, there's like areas where there's a lot of it, and there's some places where there's not so much. But one of the great things about improv is that you don't need 6 months of rehearsals and set building and learning lines. You can just get some friends together, even if you're not performing in front of whatever, and just play some improv games. Play, look them up. And I'm not trying to plug something because I could plug something, but
your book.
my book, right? But what I was going to say is you can look them up. Literally, just look up YouTube videos of Whose Lines It Anyway. See what the games are.
Yeah.
Have a go. When you do them, they'll be like you'll probably feel like, oh, that didn't go as well for us as them. And I can say that if you watch them, you can think, okay, so what did they do that worked? What did we do that perhaps didn't work? And oftentimes it will be down to characters saying no. So, shall we do this? No. Oh, why didn't that scene work? It's because you said no. Try saying yes. And you can apply this to real life as well. Obviously, you don't just say yes to everything. But if you find that you're a more accepting, go along with ideas, don't second guess things, and just give something a go, good stuff will happen out of it. One other comment I do want to come to. Oh, actually, there's been a couple. But Pablo wrote this long speech for us earlier, and I didn't go over all of it, but he said something interesting I picked up on at the end. He says, improv allows me to look at the world from different angles, some of which I didn't even know existed before expanding my mind through improv. And what that brings to me is there's an exercise, a game that we'll do in improv, which is called New Choice or Change. There's lots of different names for it, but basically a character might say, like I just gave the example of, shall we go to the beach? And another character might say no, in which case the scene stops dead. If, like, the MC or someone was to say new choice, and that no was now erased from the script, and they'd say yes, and when we're at the beach we can search for treasure. And if that's your idea and you say new choice, and that now means that's been erased from the script as well, the performer will have to come up with another option. So if it's going to the beach and you are going to go there but you're not going to search for treasure, you can think, what else can I do at a beach? Let's go surfing, new choice. What else can I do at a beach? Let's go ride a donkey, new choice. And it's like, oh my god, what else is there? And what the lesson I think that something like that can teach us is, within anything you do, there's always several options of things you can do. And some people just look at the first option. But if you new choice yourself in your everyday life, you can see, oh wow, there's all these different branching options from lots of things you can do, which will give you new options of things you could do. When people say, oh, I don't know what to say next in improv, you can say anything. You know, you can say any number of things. And the thing that your scene partner said to you before you spoke is like a starting point that will branch off in a million different directions. And the first 1,000 directions will all be very connected. So if it's going to a restaurant, let's have some chips. New choice. Let's have a pie. New choice. And they're very connected, but you can also find lots and lots of other options. So looking at things from different angles, I think, is something that Pablo says about that improv really, really can help you embrace.
That's fantastic, and I really like that, because often, you know, you can use that in many ways. And we're coming to mental health. If for instance, you have a habit of kind of deciding what people think of you, you know, or deciding what somebody's behaviour must have meant, that can be a really great skill in terms of looking at the alternatives. So, okay, maybe, you know, they didn't smile at me this morning because I upset them, but maybe they didn't smile at me this morning because, you know, they were thinking about dinner, or they had an argument with their partner, or, you know, their shoes were hurting their feet. You know, there's that idea of just kind of generating lots of different alternatives can be a really helpful technique when it comes to just dealing with self-consciousness, or feeling awkward, or just kind of worrying about how things in life, you know, just coming up with alternatives.
Zizi, would you
I'd just like to say,
oh, no, go.
my mind is absolutely blown because I did not think about it that way. So, like, I've learned something this evening. Thanks very much, you two. That was great.
Oh, absolutely, thank you. Zizi, I was going to ask, do you think is there a reason, obviously from your professional experience, perhaps why some people, and why I think quite a lot of people, will think, oh, that person didn't speak to me, and I'll go to the negative reason first?
For a lot, I mean, I don't know that we have a scientific sort of proven idea why that is, but the theories might suggest that we set up the way that we view the world and our assumptions when we're children. So we would when I'm in therapy, what I often refer to is think about the brain like a forest. So when we're children, we set down our path through the forest. So we set down these neuro pathways. Oh, I suddenly just got an echo then.
Yeah, I had that too. Oh, and then there was two.
Okay.
Definitely ghosts.
It's gone. Anyway, that's all right. I'll carry on. So think about the brain like a forest. You take a walk through the forest and you lay down that path. You're walking that path through the forest when you start going down there when you're young. You're making your way, you're working out everything, making your assumptions about the world, finding out what works, what doesn't. So you're laying down your neuro pathway. And then and that path, sometimes it makes sense to you at that time, you know, but later in life it can become quite rigid, it can become quite inflexible way of seeing the world, and that can come with problems. So when we think about CBT and trying to change, or you want to try and change the way that you're thinking or change the way that you're viewing things, we first need to look at how you found yourself on your path. Understand what things in your past influenced you to make those types of assumptions and to think that way in everyday life. So I refer to that as being like your meerkat. You're being a meerkat in your forest. You're sticking your head up and you're taking a look around and you're saying, okay, what influenced me to get here? What things have I experienced that make me automatically think this way? And when once you've been your meerkat and you understand that, you've then got options and you can decide to do things in a different way, try something new. You forge your new path. And that sort of gives us like the plasticity of the brain, so that the brain has this plasticity where we can find a new path, we can find a new route. But when we first start trying that, it's hard because it's not beaten down. The brambles are there, the bushes are there. We need to beat down that new path. But the more you take it, then the old one gets grown over, and your new path becomes more and more established. And so, the brain works like that. That basically is the plasticity. And people talk about finding it harder as you get older. But plasticity of the brain doesn't actually change. All it is that our perception of our path is we've known that path for longer, so it's harder to redivert. But we can. The ability is there. The plasticity doesn't change. It is just the perception of how it feels when you try something new.
Brilliant. Okay, I think we should, just looking at the time, begin to wrap things here.
Sense.
That was a great way to put a button on things, though, ZZ.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Really, really was. Any final things anyone wanted to say if they hadn't got to say them, though?
Yeah, the one thing... Oh, Danny first.
Yeah. No,
Danny first. Oh, I just wanted to say about one of my penny drop moments was when I'd done a scene and it hadn't gone particularly well, and it's because my scene partner was reasonably new and I'd been getting a lot of no buts. And I was doing the right thing of dropping my clanger and going with their idea, but it was because they were nervous. But I just wanted to know for myself, like, why does it make me feel so rubbish? I think it is because it feels like someone's rejecting your gift. But obviously I've then learned my own way to get around that and find the fun in it as well, because being no-butted all the time actually can be quite funny, because that is basically a new choice. But I found at the same time I was having issues with a manager of mine who, for some reason, we couldn't see eye to eye and were having a lot of spats, and it was because they were no-butting me so often, but I was refusing to drop my clanger. And so I started to have more fun in those conversations, and I got sacked. No, I didn't. I ended up being the relationship greatly improved. And so I think also the impact it has on your communication style and looking at where somebody else is coming from impacted on me positively.
Okay, Danny, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna sort of bounce on the back of what Zizi was just saying actually about the brain forest thing. I think that's something. Yeah, I think that's something that I can relate to on a personal level actually, like, and still to this day, it's something I struggle with. I think Ashley might have an idea, because I mentioned it in a comment or something on Facebook, but it's just doing improv as well is slowly helping me to find that new path, I guess, as it were. So yeah, I'm just grateful, not just for obviously Portsmouth Improv experience, but also for the chance to perform with David in the Extreme Improv group, and also Donovan, if people remember Donovan from New York City, so I do a lot of stuff with him as well.
You've been getting out there, haven't you?
I have. In fact, I knew Donovan from 2012 from a different streaming platform.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what you're saying, bringing it back to relating what I said to improv is so true. You can use those skills to find your new path, to play out new scenarios, to look at different alternatives, to find ways of looking at the world in a different light. Yeah.
Yeah. Hannah, do you have anything to add?
No, I just really love tonight, and I love talking about this sort of stuff. And I think, as much as it's beneficial for everybody watching, it's very beneficial for everybody who's taken part in it as well. I mean, because I never thought about different perceptions in terms of like that game. Like that's just literally blew my mind. But like, yeah, I think it's very beneficial for everyone, not just people who watch, but also everyone who takes part. And I think anything that evolves around what we're talking about today is so important and needs to be spoken about and needs to be acknowledged and understood. And I think that's the way forward, really, for everyone to feel like they belong and everyone to feel like they're appreciated and respected for being the person that they are, whatever stage they're up to in their life, confidence-wise or whatever. So, yeah, that's
whether it's finding a new path or whether it's actually just embracing your path and saying, yeah, I'm weird and that's okay.
I am weird and that's okay.
Also, when I'm stressed, it genuinely feels like I'm undergoing deforestation of my forest.
We don't want to know about your deforestation, love. You better keep that to yourself.
I had a gender reveal party in my head. It's all gone pretty calm.
On that note, guys, I just want to say, because Zizi, you sent me these just before we began. I've just put into the chat on the Extreme Improv pages the details on the charity. You can go to the website www.goodmentalhealth.org.uk. There's also a link I've put to make a donation to the PayPal for the charity. And I think I've put them in reverse order, strangely. So that's what that PayPal is. Do click it and make sure someone else doesn't sneak in a PayPal link, because I'd hate to have done that. It's like, but I think it comes up, doesn't it? It comes up what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it should come up as the donation link.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, so they're in reverse order, but they're both there. Let's just find out where you can find everyone. Again, it was so good to do this second edition of Improv and Me with slightly more breathing room. I'm sure we'll do another periodically. It seems like it's good. It's really meant a lot to me having all of the comments that we've had, people talking about this. It's really nice that people have shared some stories with us as well. We'll certainly we appreciate that, and we welcome more like that in the future. And I want to thank everyone for being so open on the show and sharing personal stories as well here. I will get the ball rolling first. My name is David Postansky. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at David Postansky, which is spelled Pustansky. For Extreme Improv, the one thing I will ask of you is that in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, we've got the Extreme Improv Team Championships coming up. And literally in about 20 minutes... we're going to do an announcement video where we're announcing who's in what team. It's going to be a draft. So check that out in about 20 minutes at youtube.com/Extreme Improv. I'm done plugging here because you're going to hear me plugging a lot of stuff in 20 minutes. Hannah. No, not like that, Ashley. Okay, Ashley. Sorry, Hannah. What would you like to?
Who do you want? Who's your favourite?
Oh, Danny, you're next then.
Oh, really? Wow.
No, let Anna go first.
No, you've got a beard. You can go first.
Ashley's got a beard.
Yeah, but yours is better.
my
Go on,
beard's
Danny.
on but she's
All
not
right,
here.
so Z, check this out. I made this.
Hey!
Woo!
I might update it because I think I could do better than just a long link. But you can find us here on Facebook.
Is that Comic Sans?
Probably. I don't remember.
Classic.
Piece of
It's
cake.
used ironically, clearly. Ashley, what font are you using?
I'm using Impact. I am on Facebook. I've commented a bit in the. I don't really have any professional things. I'm part of the Laughter Academy in Southend, and we are a lovely ragtag group of people who accept anyone and everyone because we believe that anyone can be an improviser, and we welcome you along.
Okay, Hannah.
I can be found at Boss Birds Improv, which is an all-women's improv company in Liverpool. At the moment, we are trying to bring more women into the world of improv, whether they have done improv before or not. So get in touch with us and we'd love to jam. Otherwise, you can find me at XStreamed this Friday, double bill. And also Improv Chattanooga. And if you're very good at not sleeping, it's Saturday morning over here at 1 a.m. till around 2:30 a.m.
Okay, and ZZ.
So I'm Creative Mental Health, as you can see behind me. I'm also on the committee for the charity that's been put in the comments box, which is the Good Mental Health Cooperative. And you can find me on my Facebook page, YouTube, or look me up on creativementalhealth.org.uk.
Brilliant. And obviously we mentioned earlier that we're going to have a special show as part of the festival Friday at 7 p.m. Do you have any other things just to plug? People know where to see the next thing?
Yeah, actually, Portsmouth Improv Experience that Danny was just holding up. We're doing a workshop. Brian's running a workshop for the festival for us on Saturday. And so if you go to the Facebook page, you will see a link for signing up on either mine or the Improv. And then next week we've got what we call our mental wealth trialogue session, which is basically an open conversation, very similar to what we've had today, but it's within a closed group. It's not streamed out. Anyone can come, and the idea is that there's no set agenda. We start with a question, and the question will be set on the previous group, and then we just talk about mental health. And the idea is that everyone has a wealth of knowledge. And everyone's voice is equally as valid, and we listen and we respect each other's points, and we just, it's a really, really inspiring event. So maybe some of you guys can come, maybe some people out there watching are interested. It's going to be our second one online, so it would be really nice to have a wider feel for it, because we've been running them in Portsmouth and Southampton areas for some time, but being online means, you know, we've got a broader reach. So yeah.
Brilliant. So with that, from everyone here, like I said, in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to get started with the Extreme Improv XStreamed Team Championship Draft Show, where we'll be announcing which teams will be competing against which teams, who the performers will be that will be part of each team, and also which teams won the vote this week to decide the extra teams that will be joining the championship itself. So, with that, from me, from everyone else, until then, or until next time, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay happy, stay XStreamed,
It's been a great night.
and look after yourselves.
Protect your trees. Look after your trees.
I got that reference.
Okay, so